Okay, so maybe you're thinking about a career as a special educational needs itinerant teacher, and you've been checking out RoleCatcher.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique role.
It really is.
Yeah.
Goes way beyond like the typical classroom scene, right?
Right.
We're talking about working with these students who, for all sorts of reasons, can't be in a regular school.
Yeah, and you've got a good point there.
Yeah.
It's not just about, like, showing up at their house with a lesson plan, you know? You're really becoming this crucial part of their whole support network.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, imagine walking into a family's life and they're in a tough spot, right? Maybe they just got a diagnosis for their child or they've been fighting to find the right support.
Right.
It can be a lot.
Yeah, and you can really see that emphasis on sensitivity in RoleCatcher. Like, they even give you pointers on handling those first meetings with families. Families who might be, I don't know, a little overwhelmed or even, like, wary of the whole education system.
Right. It's about building that trust.
Exactly.
Not just jumping into, okay, here's the textbook, let's go.
Yeah. And that's where I think this role gets really interesting really fast. Because you're not just a teacher, are you? You're a counselor. You're an advocate.
Right.
A bit of a detective sometimes, maybe even a mediator.
Oh, absolutely.
And RoleCatcher talks about facing these ethical dilemmas, like what happens when a parent's hope for their kid clashes with what the school recommends. That's a lot to handle.
It is, and it really highlights why understanding special education law is so important, which RoleCatcher gets into as well.
Okay, so tell me more about that. What's the key takeaway there?
Well, they really stress that you need to know the students' rights inside and out. You have to get their individualized education program, their IEP.
Right.
And then you become their advocate within the school system.
Because you're that link, aren't you? You're the bridge between the student, their family, and the whole school system, making sure everyone's on the same page, working towards the same goal. But let's talk about the actual teaching. I mean, RoleCatcher mentions adapting methods for different needs. What does that actually look like on the ground?
Well, they give this great example of working with a student who has dyslexia.
Okay.
So you might try incorporating audiobooks or assistive technology
Makes sense.
to help them with reading.
Yeah.
But they're also really clear that direct instruction in phonics is still key.
Right. So it's not a replacement.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance
Yeah.
between those traditional methods and new technology, always tailoring your approach to each student because every kid's different, right?
Absolutely. And it's not even just about, like, tweaking the methods we already know, right?
Yeah.
It's about thinking outside the box, getting creative.
Absolutely.
Because RoleCatcher talks about teachers using everything from, like, music therapy to, get this, therapeutic horseback riding, to get these kids engaged, to help them learn.
Yeah.
Wild, right?
Yeah, it really shows you the range of skills you need in this job.
It really does. Speaking of which, RoleCatcher also has this whole section on, where you can go in your career. You're not stuck just teaching one-on-one forever.
Yeah. Oh, definitely not. They highlight how, once you've got some experience under your belt, a lot of itinerant teachers, they move into mentoring
Okay, interesting.
or curriculum development.
Yeah, makes sense.
Some even become like these champions for inclusion throughout the whole school district.
Wow.
So you could start by working directly with students one-on-one and then end up influencing how a whole district approaches special ed.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But let's rewind a sec, because before you even get to those leadership roles, you got to land the job right.
Right.
And I got to admit, seeing those sample interview questions in RoleCatcher made me kind of nervous.
Oh, yeah. They don't mess around.
They don't. They want to know you can think on your feet, handle those tricky situations.
Definitely. But that's where their interview prep stuff comes in clutch,
Okay, yeah. Tell me more.
Because they go beyond just, here's a list of questions, good luck. They give you the inside scoop on what those interviewers are really looking for
Okay.
and those common traps to avoid.
Like what? Give me an example.
Yeah. So they're big on the STAR method. You know that one.
No, fill me in.
It's how you structure your answers. Situation, task, action, result.
Gotcha.
So instead of just saying, oh, I'm great with different learning styles, which anyone can say that, right?
Right.
You actually describe a time you had to do that. Like, what was the specific situation?
Okay, so paint a picture.
Exactly.
Right.
What was your task? What did you actually do? And what was the outcome?
Show, don't tell, basically.
Exactly. It's about presenting your experience in a way that's clear, concise, and makes them remember you.
Smart. And they even talk about using AI now to, get this, analyze job descriptions and make your resume a perfect match.
Oh, yeah, that's next level stuff.
This AI stuff feels like we're living in the future.
It kind of is, but the cool thing is it's actually super practical.
Yeah, how so?
Like, say you upload your resume and the job description, right? The AI, it goes to work, it spots any skills you might be missing,
Oh, wow.
or areas where you could beef up your qualifications.
So it's like having a personal career coach in the computer.
Basically. And it can even suggest specific keywords to add, highlight the experience that really matters, or even reword how you talk about your accomplishments so that they line up perfectly with what the employer's looking for.
So it's like translating your skills into like employer language.
Exactly.
That's amazing. But let's talk about what happens after you get the job, the nitty-gritty of being a special educational needs itinerant teacher. I mean, RoleCatcher's honest about the challenges, but they also have this whole section on the rewards.
Hmm.
What are some of those aha moments that make it all worthwhile?
Well, they share a lot of feedback from actual teachers in the field.
Okay, straight from the source.
Yeah, and a lot of them say the flexibility is amazing. Like one day you could be working on reading skills with a student, the next you're knee-deep in a science project with another.
It's dynamic then. Keeps you on your toes.
Totally. And of course, there's that feeling you get knowing you're making a real difference in these kids' lives.
Yeah, you're not just teaching, you're empowering them.
Right. Helping them overcome hurdles, become more independent, and really reach their full potential.
That's got to feel incredible.
It is. It could be something small, like a kid who's been struggling to read finally sounds out a word.
Yeah, those little wins.
Or a student who's nonverbal finding a new way to tell you what they need. Those breakthroughs, no matter how small they seem, they're what keep you going.
It's like those small wins build up to something bigger, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. In fact, RoleCatcher, they tell this story about a teacher who helped a student with really bad anxiety.
Okay.
Like this kid could barely leave the house, right?
Oh, wow.
And the goal was to get them to a school play.
That's a big ask.
It seemed impossible at first.
Yeah.
But this teacher, they were patient, worked closely with the family,
Right.
and they came up with this whole plan. And guess what?
What
Student, they not only went to the play,
Huh.
but they actually felt comfortable enough to hang out with their classmates afterward. Oh, that's amazing.
And those are the moments, the ones that remind you why you do this, why it matters.
Absolutely. Those stories pack a punch. But yeah, it's not always smooth sailing. We talked about navigating the school system, and RoleCatcher, they're pretty upfront about that being a whole other challenge sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes it feels like you're running an obstacle course, for sure.
Because you're often fighting for these kids who don't fit into those neat little boxes, right?
Exactly. And that's where, RoleCatcher stresses building those relationships with the school staff is so important.
Yeah, makes sense.
Being that squeaky wheel, advocating for your students and documenting everything, every step of the way.
Right, because you're not just teaching the student, you're kind of teaching the school, too.
Exactly. You're educating them about your students' needs, about their potential. You're changing minds one conversation at a time.
And speaking of changing things up, we've talked a bit about how tech is changing the game in education. Like RoleCatcher mentions virtual classes.
For kids who can't physically be in a school building.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, how else is technology, playing a role in the world of a special educational needs itinerant teacher?
Well, they actually talk about how virtual reality, VR, could be huge,
Okay.
especially for students with physical disabilities.
Makes sense. How so?
Well, imagine a student who uses a wheelchair, right?
Right.
And they can suddenly experience ancient Rome.
Yeah.
Or the Amazon rainforest through VR. It just opens up all these doors.
It's incredible. It
Yeah.
really is like opening up new worlds.
And it's not just VR.
Yeah.
They talk about those personalized learning platforms, too.
Right. The ones that adapt to the student's pace.
Exactly. Providing that tailored instruction that, honestly, traditional methods sometimes just can't match.
It's amazing to think about what's possible now.
It is.
But I don't know, there's a part of me that wonders about like the human element.
Oh, yeah.
Can technology ever really replace that one-on-one connection? That in-person support that feels so important for these kids.
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And so many educators are wrestling with it right now. And sure, technology, it can make learning more engaging, more effective, but that human connection,
Yeah, that human touch.
being able to really listen, to pick up on those nonverbal cues, to offer that personalized encouragement, you can't replicate that with an algorithm.
That's true.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, using technology as a tool to lift up that human element, not replace it. Because that's what really matters at the end of the day.
Because at the heart of it, it's about meeting these kids right where they are, literally, figuratively, walking with them on their journey, celebrating those victories, big and small, and reminding them that, hey, they can do anything. And that's what I'm taking away from this deep dive. It's not just teaching, it's about truly impacting a child's life.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It takes dedication, resilience, and a whole lot of heart. It's not a job for everyone, but for those who are up for the challenge, it can be so rewarding.
We've covered so much ground today, from those day-to-day hurdles to the incredible potential of technology. But here's something to chew on as we wrap up. How do we make sure all students, no matter their background, no matter their abilities, how do we make sure they all have that same access to these advancements? Because inclusive education, it's not just about having the tools, it's about making sure everyone has a chance to use them.
That's the question, all right. And it's a question we need to keep asking ourselves as the world of education keeps changing.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. It's been a great conversation. We'll catch you next time.